get this seam sealed, which is going to be fun reaching that. I might have to loosen off some lines, you know, to be able to reach some of these here, because my arm's not long enough. Seam sealing it is. So basically, I'll just give you if you haven't had it seam sealed, you'll get a tube like this. There's no pokey thing. I've got a penknife on me though.
Or of course just use the end of a peg.
And I will show you how to do a line.
Right, so very gently take your tube and just squeeze a tiny amount out. You really do not need much. You can do a tiny little line along the stitches, and then with your finger gently rub down into the stitching exactly like this, and rub up into the stitching. Cover all 3 stitching lines, and you can rub over it 2 or 3 or 4 times, just gently coaxing the sealant into the seams as best as you can, and try and make sure you get all 3 lines done. For the first 2 or 3 camps, especially with rain, take the sealant with you. That way, if perchance it rains and you have a small leak, you are prepared to seal that leak while you're camping. You will notice in this video, after the fact, I had a leak and we dealt with it, and you will also notice one small line that I missed, and again we dealt with that afterwards.
Let's have a quick look around here. So you can see the stitching. I mean, you know, all of the stitching is pretty good. This is my seam sealing. I did it myself. You know, it's not that difficult to do. Actually, I may have there. That might be worth just putting a little bit more along there. But generally, you know, it's not that difficult to do. You just want to make sure that you get some sealant all over. Now I know Ron recommends, you know, thinning it, and most of the people that do a proper decent job actually do recommend thinning, you know, the sealant out. You can see there the stitching looks very, very good. The front beak, it looks like Ron has, you know, literally, you know, completely changed the design of this front beak now. It's a Cuban fiber, I think. It feels like Cuban fiber. So even if you don't have any Cuban fiber in your collection, I don't know if this is Cuban fiber because it's not actually stitched down here, but it's certainly very similar to Cuban fiber. Only thing I have noticed now, because this is a different sort of tougher, more solid material, the top of your pole now you can't put under here. I've tried many times and it just won't stay under here, so it will be interesting to see, you know, how it copes, you know, just under here. There is one reinforced patch under there rather than the usual 2, I think. So that kind of will be interesting to see how that goes. But the stitching up here is very good. You can see I've put sealant around here. Obviously when you're with a really big shelter like this, you can't get, unless you're probably 6 foot plus, I can only stretch over this far. So you can just about reach there, but it's not easy. But sealing it actually was quite easy, because you just open the door, walk in, and then you can just lean forward and seal, you know, across there without any problems. But yeah, the front of this has been completely redesigned, because one criticism that I have with the softer front, even though my carbon fibre has obviously this is quite a tough, but it's also a really good strong bar has been put across here through to here, because I noticed with mine, because it's a little bit softer, and this bar, which isn't a bar, it's like a piece of flexible something, is further up here. And I noticed that if the wind does a 180 on you, it could flap into the inside of the shelter. Not very much, you know, just like 1 centimetre or 2, you know, just a tiny bit could flap into that little gap up there. And you could, you know, get a little bit of rain, you know, dripping down on the inside. It's not a major problem, you know, and there was always a workaround, but it was always something that, you know, for my favourite ever shelters, it did annoy me a little bit, you know. But this, you know, this is a major upgrade. If anything, this is probably one of their biggest upgrades by the looks of it, because clearly, you know, even if the wind catches that, it's only going to go there. It can't blow in, and the top of the inside of the shelter is literally, you know, well, you know, knuckle deep. So it's almost impossible for rain to get up in there now. So that's definitely an improvement. From yesterday, I've raised the inside pole 2 notches on the pole, and I've still got it pitched to the ground there, even though I've made the inside pole about 1 inch longer, although some of that is maybe lost from sinking into the ground, in all honesty. And then obviously the other big upgrade that I've noticed is that now you have this clip on both doors, so you could open this door or the other door, and you have this clip here, which is really easy to do up. There's no button popper to press, and no bottom presses on the door. That's a complete change. So whether MLD have more you know, faith in zips these days, or they've just found out that people weren't using the poppers, I don't know. But I always tended to use the poppers, but I don't know, they're not there now. Saves a few grams, I guess. I'm guessing this is clearly like a watertight zip, not going to be waterproof, but watertight. So that will be interesting what that's like, you know, in the rain. Yeah, I must admit, I am very impressed with this Duomid XL. I think this has been out, I don't know, 3-4 odd years now, and I never bothered with it because I had the Duomid, and obviously I have the Duomid and I have the Supermid, and I kind of never really bothered with this so much because it's kind of like in between. It's kind of like in between, as it were. And I thought, oh, I can't really justify getting this. But then I thought, oh, I can't resist it. It's been out a while. I've seen a few people using it and talking about it, and I've had one or two people, you know, asking if I'd, you know, seen it or tried it. And well, we've always got to get something new occasionally, haven't we? It certainly looks, you know, a good addition to the lineup, that's for sure. And like I said, that is the Scarp 2 ground sheet
mesh in
there. So you can see that you have, you know, at least at least a Scarp 2 behind you. Okay, you're probably going to lose, you know, a little bit of space on that wall and that wall over there compared to a Scarp 2, but you know, you certainly have, you know, plenty of room in here. I would say the second person that you would put at the back would probably, you know, maybe have to be a bit shorter than the person that would go, you know, at the front, it has to be said. But you might even be able to pitch it, you know, a little bit higher and still have it on the ground there. I always find with these shelters that it's kind of better to pitch them, you know, a tiny bit too high than, you know, than too low. And then if you can pitch them just a little bit higher.
In reality, this could be pitched a little higher and still to the ground.
Then you're more likely to get your edges, you know, straight. Okay, so I'm going to do another separate video. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, notification, all that stuff. I'm going to do a separate video on poles. Well, as usual, the rain has appeared.
If you find a leak, don't panic.
Okay, so we're having a look around and I can see one drop coming through there. So I'll have to just put some more sealant over there. Maybe it's just where the connecting point is. I think that's the only spot that's leaking. Just seems to be literally just in there, but nothing up here is leaking, and you can see quite prominent, yeah, there you can see quite prominent stitch holes, but the sealant has worked very well there. It literally just seems to be something down here that's leaking on there, so when it dries I just need to do a little extra there, but everywhere else, and it seems to be the same that side there as well, which is really interesting. It's where this outer is joining the inner. Very interesting as to why that is leaking. I wonder where it's coming from. I'll take a really good look at that, but it doesn't actually matter because it's actually well away from, you know, where anyone is, so, you know, it actually doesn't matter. All the other seams seem to be holding up well. including around this. When you seal this, obviously do it on the outside, but what I do is I sort of pull it, you know, get the sealant underneath as much as possible. Right, more often than not, when it's raining, you can leave the door open, but in this instance, it's actually raining from the southeast, which unfortunately is in the opposite direction. I had to do the door up. Now I've not put the clip across. I think we'll get away with it in this instance because I've got two lines going to one peg, so that will help keep the, you know, the zipper together. Plus it's not very windy. Plus I don't want to get my down jacket any damper than I already have. But most of the time I would suggest that you do that clip up on the outside as a safety measure. So there you can see that it is, you know, really quite easy, you know, to do that door up there when you have to. A note on sealing: when you seal, make sure you seal the stitching outside this rod here. I'll show you. So make sure you seal this here, because if you don't, what will happen, and I found this out yesterday when it was raining, rain comes down here, gets inside this stitching, and then it gets inside here on each side. And what happens, and I discovered this yesterday, is I had water dripping down here and here. Both sides started exactly the same place, about here, and dripped down here and here and dripped down here. And it was only when I went outside to put some more sealant here and here, thinking I hadn't done it, and I think I had done it, but what I hadn't done is that beak. And I think that beak comes exactly to the stitching there, and obviously there. So seal that stitching on that beak outside, and that will probably stop rain coming down here.
Very helpfully, it did rain the next day, and I found out that putting the sealant over that stitching on the front beak stopped 99% of my drips. I still had one persistent tiny drip, so I will make sure that I have my sealant with me just in case. I did put a little bit more sealant here and there, but you know, other than that, I had it all you know, completely dried and clear inside. So as I said earlier in the video, after sealing it, just take the sealant with you over the next 2 or 3 trips, and then, you know, if it rains and you get a small drip inside, then you'll know where it is. Pop out when it's dry and just put some sealant in that one area. You don't have to do everything again. Or of course, if it's particularly bad, as I noticed with my DD pyramid and water was dripping in on me on that, what I managed to do in that instance was put some sealant on the inside of the stitching. Even though water was getting in at that moment in time, the sealant still helped reduce the dripping. And then when it dried, I popped outside and put some sealant on the outside as well. So, you know, in an emergency, if you find that you have some drips getting in, get your sealant out. Even if it's even if water is getting through the seams, just get some sealant and just run some sealant down those seams, even if they're wet, you know, from the inside, and that will help. And then of course you can then seal the outside when it's dry. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. Please do like, subscribe, share, hit that notification, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video, and of course reading your comments below. Lastly, just very quickly, please do remember that I have a watch channel, Wild About Watches. I'm on about 950 subscribers now. I really would appreciate your time and patience if you could pop over there, put a subscribe on there and watch one or two of the videos over there in their entirety. That would help the YouTube algorithms and help that channel grow a little bit. And if you have watched this video to the very end, then you are one of the very few people who will be helping this channel to grow as well. And I thank you especially if you have got to the very end of this video. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.